We're halfway through to the Omer. Not halfway, but a little bit over than half. And we learned a few times a more spiritual significance of the Omer, why we count it, and what we really need to focus on, what we need to do. But the Omer is not only necessarily about counting days. The Omer is a very specific and special time. I mentioned in the previous class that the Arizal explains that this is the time that we can rip or ripe, what's the right word to say it, the energy for the entire year to work on ourselves. It is a time of working. And what would be the right word to say? To rip, when you, let's say you plant fruit. Not ripen, then you reap your fruit. Reap, that's how you say? So this is the time when we reap the benefit, the energy, the power for the rest of the year to be able to work on ourselves. Because this 50 days we're supposed to work on ourselves. And one needs to focus on that. Now, the Sefirat Ha'omer has many things, many ways how to look at it. In general, the teachings of Kabbalah explains that there are 3 periods that really represent the journeys of my life. The first period is called Mitzrayim, the exile of Mitzrayim. The second period is called Omer, and the third period is called Matan Torah. And this represents 3 journeys or 3 periods in my life that I will constantly go backwards and forth. The first part is Galut Mitzrayim, is the exile of Egypt, when I'm in exile, when I'm in my state of limitation. The next period will be the time when I work on myself. This is the motion of what's called a Baal Tshuva. That's when I do Tshuva. That will correspond to the Omer. And then there will be the period of Matan Torah, of a spiritual enlightenment. And I will constantly go backwards and forth in a cycle in between these 3 journeys. And these are 3, not only 3 journeys, are 3 levels in my life that I have to constantly go. And it's not that I achieved one of them and I'm over. I will constantly go back to my Mitzrayim. My Mitzrayim is my exile. And Mitzrayim is compared to an exile. I mean, you say the word Mitzrayim, you know this is exile. This is Galut. This is representing my limitations. The Zohar calls Mitzrayim Galut Hadat, the exile of Da'at. Now, Da'at can be comprehension. Da'at is also the Sefirah of Da'at, of understanding. And we also know that the tree where we get, so to say, our essence from, it's called Etzadat, the tree of knowledge. So that can also be knowledge. But in Etzadat is rooted our entire Avodat Hashem. Everything, the whole DNA of the story of the world is in Etzadat, the tree of knowledge, which the terminology in Kabbalah doesn't call it Etzadat, rather it calls it Sod Etzadat Tovera. The secret of good and bad, that something is mixed in each other, which is basically the secret of the entire existence of the world, that the good and the bad are mixed together. So the Zohar takes Mitzrayim and it says Mitzrayim, this is called Galut Hadat, that my Da'at is in exile. And sometimes a person can think that they're in one place, but they're actually not. They're in a completely different place. And we'll explain that what I mean. But there are 3 periods, so to say, and it's not a period of a time frame. It's just try to picture in your mind a spiritual period. That first I will start in a state of limitation, of an exile. Then I have to go out of this exile, and will be a period of Sefirat Ha'omer, of refinement, of work. And the point is to reach the level of Matan Torah, of the spiritual enlightenment. Now some days, I'm sure you notice it, some days there's a special spiritual light that shines on us. and my day looks completely different. I'm in a good mood, things are working well for me, everything is special and better. And some days they don't. Some days the spiritual light is not shining on me. Now, when I'm saying a spiritual light shining on me, the wrong way to picture it is a light shining on me. When you say a spiritual light, people tend to imagine a light that comes out of a light bulb. But light in Hebrew is or, and or comes from the word he'ara, who is to enlight. So a spiritual light is not necessarily that you take a dark room and you light it. It's some type of elevation, an inspiration, an enlightenment. There's nothing to do if it's dark or light. So a godly revelation, a spiritual enlightenment is not necessarily the physical light. Is the shift, is the change of a spiritual state.
Is it giving light to others? Being able to give
That's a whole different thing. If you give light to somebody else, if you have the right motion, you will share the light that you got. But when I'm talking about a spiritual enlightenment, is not that we sometimes talk about very broad terms, especially when you come to learn Chassidut or Kabbalah or Zohar. You talk about very big terms, and people find it very hard to picture in their mind, what does it mean? So you're talking about a ha'ara elokit, a godly revelation. Right away you try to picture, what's a godly revelation? Okay, a lot of light, a room full of light. Or you say sometimes the soul experiences pleasure. I right away try to say, what's pleasure? Oh, for me pleasure is sleeping. For me pleasure is eating ice cream. Or for me pleasure is, having a good cup of wine. I need to relate it with something. That's why the way to relate with spiritual teachings is you have to work with some parables to kind of understand what does it mean. Because we're looking at a spiritual form, something, a detail coming from the spiritual world, but I need to somehow relate with it. For example, it says that the souls of the tzaddikim are sitting in Gan Eden with crowns on their head and enjoying the shine of the rays of the glory of Hashem. Now we need to somehow relate with it. What does it mean? Well, they're sitting there on a deck chair with a margarita. What does it mean? They're enjoying, they're getting some pleasure. What does it mean? So, in everything that we learn in the mystical teachings, whether it's Kabbalah or Zohar or Chassidut, it's talking about certain terms. Now we need to relate with it somehow. So it can talk about a godly revelation, like Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. So we picture in Matan Torah that we got like a book with a ribbon and Mazal Tov, here's the book. That's not what happened in Matan Torah. That's not, we just relate with it. So same thing, when I'm saying that we have 3 levels, 3 periods in our life, it doesn't mean that it's summer, winter, and spring. It means that I have some type of a cycle that I constantly will find myself. I will find myself in a state of limitation in a Mitzrayim. That's when there's a siluka or, then this godly light, this revelation is removed. Why it's removed, that's not the point right now. It can be removed from my own actions by doing a sin, or it can be removed because that's what Hashem wants right now, for me to be away from the spotlight. Because He wants me right now to struggle and to climb up. I'm not going to work on myself if I'm constantly in the same level. I'm only going to work on myself when things are bad. If everything would be good and I have millions of dollars in my bank account and a beautiful home, healthy like an ox, everything is exactly how I wish for myself, I wouldn't do any spiritual work. I would not pray, I would not learn. I know everybody says, yeah, if I had everything was comfortable, I would all day long be learning. No, you won't. You would be sitting in a restaurant now, drinking these margaritas because you have a lot of money. Why need to pray? We pray because we have problems. That's usually the case. I go to the shul when I need something, when I need health, when I need parnasah, when I need to get married. So, and I know people will say, no. If I had a lot of money, I would be all day long do charity, and all day long I would learn Torah. And usually it's not the case. Usually we we act when we're squeezed. If everything is good, we don't really act. So these cycles, they change. There's constantly a change. This is usually the definition of exile. Is in Hebrew it's called ma'avarim kitzoniyim, that you're going from one place to the other, but very extreme. One day here, one day here. This is the root of the exile, that when you really dissect the concept of exile, is that you change from one place to the other, but very, very extreme. And when I'm in a place of exile, it means that right now there's the concept is that there's a removal of the light. Siluk ha'or. Why right now? Again, we're not going to talk about today why. I can tell you that one of the reasons can be because of me doing a negative act, a sin. I push the light away. And it can be because that's the will of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and it can be many other things. But when there's going to be a removal of the godly light from me, the godly light is not shining on me, then that's where I'm going to find myself. I'm going to find myself in a much lower level. Spiritually, of course. Needless to say, that when the godly light is being removed, what will come instead? The Yetzer Hara is going to come in a very powerful way. Now, there's these three stages that I will go through. A is the exile, then is the Sefirat Ha'omer, is the time of refinement, and then Matan Torah, which is the godly revelation, the inspiration, the spiritual enlightenment that I will gain. Now sometimes, or I can't say sometimes, a lot of the times we find ourselves in this state of limitation, in our Mitzrayim. I might have a good month, everything works well, and then I'm back to square one and I'm back battling my exile. And it's hard work. And in this time, I find it very hard to serve Hashem. It's very hard to pray, it's very hard to do anything, because I'm pulled down back into Mitzrayim. They weren't so spiritual when they're in Egypt. And sometimes people don't understand that, is sometimes their avodah, their spiritual work is just to live another day, another day, another day. And some people get to such low places is that their daily struggle is just to live. It's not to do a mitzvah right now. If they're able to squeeze in a mitzvah, they won the lottery. Their struggle right now is just to keep their head up, just to live, just to pull another day. And we do find ourselves in these situations. One is going to be struggling with health, another is going to be struggling with livelihood, another is going to be struggling with a lawsuit, or anybody. We all struggle with something. Sometimes it comes, they say when it rains it pours, it rains, however you say that. Sometimes you get a whole storm of problems. But the reality is that we find ourselves in some type of a state that we have to struggle. And this is our Mitzrayim. We have to go out of our Mitzrayim. This is the name of the game. Hashem will put me in a situation to struggle. There's going to be a struggle here. I need to pull myself out of this Mitzrayim, and then will start coming the work of the refinement. Now, usually, when I'm in the state of Mitzrayim, I'm in a very low level, then that's where the Yetzer Hara is going to come the most powerful to squeeze me. And usually what's going to happen when I'm in the state of Mitzrayim, then there's not going to be energy to do anything. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do nothing. I don't feel like doing anything. I'm talking about spiritual work. I don't want to pray. I don't want to do mitzvot. I don't want to observe Shabbat right now. Just let me be. I just need to get out of this. Now, unfortunately, sometimes we find ourselves in a place that I feel that I'm in a very high place spiritually. This is another level of Mitzrayim, but my desire for forbidden things is even greater. I am performing. I'm doing a lot of mitzvot. I observe Shabbat. I eat kosher. I do everything that I need to do. But the desire, the te'ava, to do something forbidden is even greater and greater and greater. And I find myself in a contradiction. In one way, I'm very religious. But on the other hand, I'm doing the very bad things that maybe I did in my past, or something that I can control myself. So usually the state of exile is going to be that I'm in a place of limitation. But then I find myself every now and then that I experience a Yetziat Mitzrayim. I go out of my state of limitation. Pitom I get a boost. Doesn't matter right now how it happened, but I have a very bad period. Pitom I get extra powers and I'm able to go out of it. And this is called Yetziat Mitzrayim. I go out of my limitation, out of my spiritual limitation. And usually that will come with a very high spiritual revelation. This is the motion of a Baal Tshuva. That the Baal Tshuva gets a very high spiritual revelation and suddenly they're operating in a completely different level. They do everything in one shot. They just grab as much as they can with a big excitement. And this is the spiritual high. But then at some point it wears off, because the Baal Tshuva always will take off very, very strong, and then slowly it will start wearing off. Now, we see physically that sometimes the godly light is removed from us. Last month, I would wake up every morning at 5 a.m. to pray. Now I don't have this energy. Once a month ago, every person that asked my help, I was there first time, right away, and now I don't feel like helping anybody. So I do find myself constantly that one time I'm in a very high spiritual level, that I'm very excited to do the mitzvot. Sometimes I know it. I can physically feel the siluka o when the light comes and when the light goes. It's almost like you have a beautiful sunny day, then you feel like going out, you go for a walk, you're in a good mood. It's going to be a cloudy day, you want to be at home, you don't want to leave, your mood is off. So we can very easily feel when this godly light is being removed from us and when it's being brought back. But here I have again the period of exile, of Mitzrayim, then the motion of Yetziat Mitzrayim, of going out of Mitzrayim, and then I have the period of the Omer, of Sefirat Ha'omer. Now, usually what happens is on Pesach, I get a boost, because on Leil Seder is a very high godly revelation, a very high he'ara, and then it disappears. And then I have 50 days to slowly start getting it back till Shavuot. But in the mystical explanation of Sefirat Ha'omer, now I have to work on myself. I have to pick myself up, so to say. Now Sefirat Ha'omer, Sefirah comes from the word in Hebrew lispor, to count. But Sefirah also comes from the word in Hebrew sapir, and sapir is to enlighten. This is the time, the period that I have to take the godly light and to enlighten my neshama with some godly light. Mainly it's to enlighten the nefesh habehemit, is my animal soul, to pump it up with some spirituality. Is to able to enlighten that part in me. That's why Sefirat Ha'omer, it's not necessarily just counting the days. Is bringing the light in, because sapir in Hebrew is to light. There's a stone, sapir, that the commentaries explain that Noach in the ark, how did he have light? A whole year he was in a closed ark. He didn't have a generator making light. So one commentary says they had a window on the top. But even in the window of the top, the ark was so huge, and there was 3 levels. Even if there was a window on the top, how would it light the lower level? So there is a commentary that says that he had a special stone, like I don't know if to say a sapphire, but it's called sapir, and he had that stone in the ark, and that stone lit up the entire ark. And this stone is called sapir. So sapir is to enlighten. So Sefirat Ha'omer is not counting necessarily, is rather to enlighten. And I have to take this godly light and to enlighten my neshama. Mainly the dark parts of my neshama, which will be my animal soul, my nefesh habehemit. Now really, the whole concept of Sefirat Ha'omer is the concept of tshuva, is a Baal Tshuva. Now Baal Tshuva is not necessarily a person who was born secular and became religious. A Baal Tshuva can be a person that was born into a very religious family. He can also be a Baal Tshuva. A person who converted in the middle of their life. This is also a Baal Tshuva. This is a broad definition. A Baal Tshuva is a person that does tshuva for their acts. Even a convert that converts in the middle of their life, they need to correct what they did in their previous life, so to say. Not too long ago, somebody asked me and told me I recently converted, but before I converted, I did A, B, and C, and this is against the Torah. Is my conversion resetting everything, or do I need to do a tikkun for what I did 20 years ago? I said, of course you need to do a tikkun 20 years ago. There's no connection. You did something, you know it's bad, you have to fix it. The actual conversion, the dipping in the mikveh, that doesn't erase what you did in the past. So a Baal Tshuva, a convert, a person who was born religious and changed their path. You know many people who were born religious, they went off the derech, so to say, became not observant, they came back. We're all Baalei Tshuva. We all have to do tshuva. And the period of Sefirat Ha'omer is doing tshuva, is to do tshuva. And the main part, the main avodah of Sefirat Ha'omer is called Tikkun HaMidot. There's 2 tikkunim that we have to do during Sefirat Ha'omer. Tikkun HaMidot, it's refinement of character trait, and Tikkun HaEmunah, because we have a problem with Emunah. Emunah is believe in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and trust in the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Because most people don't have Emunah. They might have a black suit. We talked about it before. They might have a black suit, but they don't have belief in Hashem. I told you once, there was once a story that there was a certain individual that he became closer to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, he's doing his tshuva. So they decided in Shamayim to test him. So they made him lose $5. So he lost $5. You know what he said? It's all for the good. Hakol letovah. Everything that Hashem does is good. It's all good. So in Shamayim, in the heavens, they were very impressed. They said, ooh, look, he has emunah. He didn't get excited that his $5 disappeared, that he lost $5. He said it's all for the benefit of it's good. Hakol letovah, gamzu letovah. So they decided to try him again. This time, he lost $50. He was very strong in his emunah, and he was like, Hakol letovah, gamzu letovah. It's all for the good. Everything that Hashem does is good. It's all good. So they were very impressed by his attitude in Shamayim. So they said, okay, let's try now a big one. So now he lost $50,000. Then it was not letovah anymore. Then it was not for the good. Then it's not everything that Hashem does is for the good. Then the attitude was completely different. Why? Because now it was a big amount. $5, Hakol letovah. $50, everything Hashem does is good. $50,000, pitom, the attitude changed completely. Now it's not good. Now it's not fine. Now when Hashem is punishing me, everything changed. So, and this just comes to symbolizes that we have emunah, belief till a certain level. And then when it crosses a certain line, pitom, the emunah goes out of the window. So we are constantly need to strengthen our emunah. Because I will be able to hold my belief till a certain place, and then when it crosses and I can't handle it anymore, then I don't believe in Hashem anymore. And in everything else that comes with it. So we have a problem that we think that we have a belief, but our belief is only in very simple things. When it's tested, pitom, you get bad news, the emunah flies out of the window. Pitom, you afraid, hey, Hashem, why are you doing it to me? I'm such a good person. Pitom, you don't come with all the fancy titles of everything is for the good and Hashem is good for us. So in Sefirat Ha'omer we have to correct, or more to say, to refine 2 ways of service of Hashem. One of them is refinement of character, which is called Tikkun HaMidot. That's why we're mentioning all the midot all the time. We're not just counting days. Every day I can refine one aspect of my midot. So not for nothing I say Gvura Shebachesed, Tiferet Shebehod. I mean, we're throwing these fancy words and most people don't even know what they're saying. I mean, it's good to say it even though without knowing. But if you really want to dwell into it, you ask a person, why did you say today Tiferet Shebehod? I don't even know what I'm saying. Tiferet Shebehod, wow. The point is that we are not required to understand what does it mean, the tikkun of this particular midah. What we need to understand is that we have to refine our character traits. Now, I don't know what it means tiferet shebehod, or chesed shebegvura, or hod shebenetzach. I don't know what it means. Don't even try to understand what it means. Nobody knows what it means, trust me. If somebody tells you they know what they mean, nobody knows what it means. The Arizal knows what it means. The Baal Shem Tov knows what it means. I don't know what Netzach Shebegvura means. I just take two words that I have no idea what it's talking about, and I say, oh, today we're fighting Netzach Shebetiferet. It's very interesting. So the point is that I need to know how to refine my character traits. So I don't know what's Netzach Shebetiferet. I know what's anger. I know what's jealousy. I know what's frustration. And I know what's sadness. And I know what's depression. That's what I know. So instead of saying Netzach Shebetiferet, I say, today I need to work on my anger. Today I need to work on my frustration. Today I need to work on my depression, my jealousy, my everything. I need to work on my character trait. Happens to be that the Siddur says Tiferet Shebenetzach. I can learn a little bit some more in depth what it means, but to really relate with it, I don't know how to refine the midah of Netzach in me.
I choose what I want.
You don't choose. I'm talking now in a very...
Says Netzach Shebenetzach. I say today I'm going to work on I don't know what.
No. What I mean is that you still have to say Tiferet Shebenetzach. If you're asking me, I don't know how to refine the midah of Tiferet Shebenetzach in me. I don't even know what it means. But if I have a problem with anger, so I need to work on my anger today. And if I have a problem with jealousy, I need to work on my jealousy. I don't know what's your problem or your problem. We all have problems. I can be impatient. I can be jealous. I can be depressed. I can be, mitnaseh, going, above somebody. I can have geava. I can have so many midot. You know how many midot there are? So there are many different types of character traits that I recognize in me. So I need to, it doesn't mean that today's a Monday, it's anger. I need to recognize in me what are the midot that I need to refine. And I need to work on them. And this is an auspicious time to do that. I have 49 days that I will get an assistance from above to work on myself. Now, first of all, in order for me to go out of Mitzrayim, I have to understand that I'm in Mitzrayim. I have to understand and acknowledge what's my limitation. Now, if I have a problem with anger, I need to acknowledge that I have a problem with anger. That's it is. Sometimes you come to a person and you tell him, we have a problem with anger. Me? I don't have a problem with anger. You have a problem. I'm sorry to tell you. So usually, in order to first recognize what's my exile, I have to admit. We had a beautiful class here before Pesach that we learned about how to admit. The Pesach is about admitting. I need to admit, I have a problem with lying. I have a problem with stealing. Whatever it is, I have to admit. In order to correct something, I have to admit it. In order for me to go out of Mitzrayim, I have to realize what's my Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is a state of limitation. So if I have a problem with geava, or with anger, or with sadness, or whatever it is, I need to first realize that that's my problem. Because if not, I'm not going to be able to go out of my Egypt. And I'm not coming to put anybody down. We came here with this baggage. We have to refine it. That's our job in this world. Now, if I don't know how to recognize my faults, that's already a problem. I need to recognize my faults. I know what's my faults. I can be lazy, I can be loud, I can be angry, I can be jealous, whatever it is. So I need to recognize what's the midot that I have to work on, but to take into consideration that the time of taking all this energy to work on myself is the time of the Omer. It's the time of tikkun midot and tikkun emunah. These are the two things that I need to work on in this 49 days. Is building my emunah and and correcting my midot. And why do we want to do that? Because we want to reach to the level of Matan Torah, of this godly revelation. Now it can be a godly revelation within me, what's called my personal redemption, but I also want to reach my global redemption. It's the coming of Mashiach. And with my effort, I'm affecting the entire world. If I have a problem with anger, and I really work on myself, and today I didn't get angry because somebody did something small to me, I now affected the entire world. If I have a problem with jealousy, and today I was able to hold myself or to accept somebody else's success, now, not only did I refine my own midah, I affected the entire world, that I was able to bring a little bit closer the revelation of Mashiach. So I have a personal work to do, and I have a general work to do. So when I work on my emunah, you know what we say about the coming of Mashiach? Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema be'viat HaMashiach. I believe in a complete faith that Mashiach is coming. It doesn't say Ani yodea. It says Ani ma'amin. So it means that I want to hasten the redemption, I have to work on my emunah. This is the time when I have to focus on it. This is the auspicious time. The same way that I explained to you in the class before, that in the time of the period, the commentary, Abu Dhram, said that it was the time where all the farmers would pray their kishkes. It was a period that they had to put all their prayers, because this is the time. It's almost like a woman wants to get pregnant. At the time that she's trying to get pregnant, everybody's praying and reading Tehillim and giving charity. Once she's pregnant, after she has a few kids, nobody's praying in the same level. A person is now going into an operation, Pito, everybody's praying their hearts out, giving money to charity, learning Torah. Then the person is saved, Baruch Hashem, everybody going back to square one. So there's always a period that we put a lot of effort. This is the period to put the effort into refine my character and to work on my emunah. And when I do that, I'm able to make space to bring the ultimate Matan Torah, and that's the godly revelation that we're expecting. Now, in my personal level, it's the revelation that I want in me. I want to be inspired. I want to reach to a level of inspiration and redemption. But if I want to look at it in a very global way, then I want to hasten the Geulah. Now, how do you do that? If you remember, when the Jews went out of Mitzrayim, they reached to the ocean, and the ocean closed on them. They were cornered to the ocean. And when Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know what to do, if you remember, there was 4 groups. One group wanted to go back to Mitzrayim, one group wanted to commit suicide and jump in the water, one group wanted to fight, and one group said, let's just pray. When Moshe Rabbeinu approached the Kadosh Baruch Hu and asked him, what should I do? So Hashem says, V'daber elehem v'yisau. Daber elehem v'yisau. Just talk to them and move. Just keep on going. Just jump in. And what did they have to do? Jump in the water. With emunah. Nachshon ben Aminadav just jumped into the water. He had belief. And the fact that he jumped in, the water opened. So we need to strengthen our emunah, is to believe. And where do we start working on that? Is to believe that Hashem loves us. Because when I'm in a very bad place, I was thrown out of my house, if I just lost my money, my wife just kicked me out of the house, whatever it is. I mean, no, my wife didn't kick me out of the house, don't worry. But I'm just giving you examples. If I'm going through something real bad right now, I lost my belief in Hashem. Why are you doing this to me? Why am I now going through this? In 1 second, my emunah to the Kadosh Baruch Hu went back. I don't believe. So I have to build back this emunah. Hashem has a plan for me. He wants me to jump into the water. He wants me to believe 100% that, yeah, time is bad right now, but I still love you. You know that if you try to go into the mind of a 6-year-old when his parent is screaming at him because he did something bad. Now the parent is trying to educate the child. If you will go into the mind of the 6-year-old, my mommy hates me right now. Why is she screaming at me? Why is she punishing me? She doesn't love me anymore. That's what you hear from a little kid, that after you punish the little kid, the kid says, you don't love me anymore. No, I didn't stop loving you because I touched you on your hand. I didn't stop loving you because I put you in timeout. That's why, just as a side note, in education, when you rebuking the child, right away has to come after that some affection. It says, my love didn't stop. I just have to put you in your spot. Or I have to do something. Hashem says, listen, I didn't stop loving you because now I kicked you in your butt. And that's what is required. This is the emunah that is required, that I have to believe Hashem loves me. Doesn't matter what I'm going through right now. Hashem loves me, and He's not stopping to love me. He just needs me to go through this cycle, through my Egypt, through my Mitzrayim, go out of my exile, work on myself. Hashem wants me to work on myself. And I'm only going to work on myself when I'm quetched. We learned about this when the Torah says Shemen Zayik ve'ikhu li Shemen Zayit zach katit lamaor, that you have to take the purest olive oil when you katit, when you crush the olive. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu crushes us, but he says, don't think for a second I don't love you. So we have to work in the emunah to know that the Kadosh Baruch Hu loves me. And it's the Yetzer Hara that will bring me into sadness. I'm now being in the motion of being crushed. It's good. It's my workout. That's when the Yetzer Hara is going to come and bring in the sadness and depression and being heavy and all that. Why? Because he's jumping on the opportunity. But that's when I need to work on my emunah. I say, no, Kadosh Baruch Hu loves me. That's part of the process. And that's what I need to work on. So to summarize it, is that we have 3 periods. We said the Egypt, the exile, the Sefirat Ha'omer, the time of refinement, and the time of Matan Torah, when I'm reaching my inspiration and revelation. And I'm now in the time of refinement. I have to refine my character trait, Tikkun HaMidot, and I have to work on my emunah. And that's an auspicious time. It's a time that I'm able to do that. So when you read Netzach Shebahod, I know there's a lot of explanations. What does it mean and all but the reality is, without hurting anybody's feelings, nobody really knows how to refine the Netzach Shebahod in their nefesh. The Arizal will be able to understand what it means. We do not understand that. So I'm not putting anybody down. I'm not chas v'shalom saying trying to hurt anybody's intelligence. I'm saying it about myself. That even as much as books as you're going to read, we're not going to be able to understand really what it means to refine the midah in a midah. I don't even know. I can relate with anger. Tell me the word anger, I know what it is. Somebody pushed my button and I exploded. This is what I can relate with. I can relate with jealousy. I can relate with pride. I can relate with laziness. I can't relate with netzach. So not to take the air out of the bubble, but really I need to focus on what is familiar to me, and I have to recognize what I need to work on, and this is the time that I need to work on it. I have a problem, that's the time. And why now? Because this is the period. This is the period where Hashem says, now you have an assistance, you have a midah you have to refine, now is the time. And if you do it the right way, you will reach your Matan Torah, you will reach your godly revelation, the ultimate redemption. You can reach it in your personal level, and you can reach it in a very global level. And just that you know that every little act that you do affects the entire world. You might not see the steps. You can walk like walking on a treadmill. You don't see the benefit. I'm walking 10 minutes, I'm on the same spot. You don't notice that you're actually working out. And your heart is getting a good exercise, and your muscles. If you're looking at it in a very superficial way, hey, I'm walking here for 10 minutes, I'm in the same spot where I started. So we don't see our efforts, but our efforts affect the entire world. And when I'm working on a certain midah in a very global way, it's affecting that midah in the world. So if I'm able to really, really overcome my anger, it will affect a lot of other people that they have a problem with anger. And our main point is to bring the redemption. So with my little effort, I'm affecting the entire world. So one thing I want to take out of this Sefirat Ha'omer, we're halfway through, it's an auspicious time. It's a good time to put the information on the table and say, Tachlis, what's my problem? And it's very hard to admit and say, I'm a grouch. I'm very grouchy. I have a problem with anger. I told you not too long ago when I was in my last tour in America, I had 2 individuals. I had a day of meetings. One individual walks into me and he tells me, my wife, she's out of control. Everything I say, she answers back, she screams, she's this, she's that. Okay, after 10 minutes of complaining about his wife, and my kids, they're completely out of control. They answer back, they scream, they this, and my boss and my neighbor, he complained about the entire world. The next guy who walked into the room, you know what he told me? Rabbi, I don't know what to do. I have a problem with anger. I keep screaming at my wife and kids. And then he tells me, I have a problem with being patient. I don't have patience to my kids. And Rabbi, I have a problem with honesty. And I have a problem. I told him, wow, unbelievable. The first guy said, my wife has a problem, my kids have a problem, my boss. This guy says, I have a problem with anger. I have a problem with patience. I have a problem. I said, wow, this is a tzaddik. He comes and says, I have a problem. So most people say, my wife has a problem. You know, there's a joke in Israel that they say Israelis are very hot-tempered. So when they ask Israelis, why are you so hot-tempered? So the answer is, I'm not hot-tempered, just people annoy me. So it's very hard to admit when I have a problem. But I need to do cheshbon nefesh. I need to do an account and say, I have a problem. Because if I don't know how to recognize my problem, I will never work on it. I will never refine it. So this is the time to do it. And I need to work on my midot. And I have 50 days, we're past already half, to work on my midot. And if I know I have a problem with pride, then every day I have to work on myself. I have a problem with anger, I'm going to really control myself, not to answer back, not to say what I really want to say. And that's the time to do it. And B'ezrat Hashem, if we're able to refine our midot, which is the main avodah that we need to do, it's the main job to do. I told you many times, Rabbi Chaim Vital, the student of the Arizal, says that the main thing we need to do in this world is tikkun midot, is refinement of character, and it can take years to refine one midah. But that's the time that we actually focus on it, and we can basically pump, so to say, as much as energy to carry with us for the rest of the year in this period. So B'ezrat Hashem, we should fulfill this part to be able to refine our character traits. B'ezrat Hashem, we will be able to receive the Torah again very soon in Matan Torah. And more than that, we'll be able to make space for Mashiach to come. And as it says, v'Torah chadasha mitzit yitzeh, a new Torah is going to come with Mashiach, and we should, with our hard work, merit to see and to benefit our hard work and to see the coming of Mashiach, B'ezrat Hashem, that He redeems everybody, not only myself, He redeems everybody. The main thing I need to focus on is that everybody's in the same place. It's very easy to see in myself that it's only me suffering right now, but everybody's suffering in their level. And my point is to bring Mashiach, to bring the Geulah. And the way to do it is really to make space for everybody. We spoke about before, V'ahavta l'cha kamocha, is respecting everybody, judging every person to kav zchut. That's what's going to bring the redemption, because this is really what's going to take us out of the exile. B'ezrat Hashem, we should see it with our own eyes very soon.